podcast.
Scary cat, have a scary chat. Scary cat with Rob and Ash.
Welcome back to Scaredy Cat. I am Robbie,
And I'm Ash.
and this is usually the podcast where one person who loves horror films
And someone else who'd rather not.
watch and talk about them. But this week, we're going to do something a little different, a little more special.
What are we going to do?
We're going to talk about one of our favorite directors so far,
Who?
Mr. Tobe Hooper.
Tobe?
He unfortunately left his mortal coil,
He died.
and it's been probably a couple weeks now.
It's been 2 or 3 weeks.
But
You know what was bonkers bananas?
What?
Is that I got an alert, a news alert on my phone telling me that he had died. That was super weird.
well, you're convinced that Google's trying to get you.
It's listening to everything. And that's why, and you make fun of me, but that's why when I ask Google questions, I say please and thank you. Because when the machines take over the earth, they're going to remember who was polite.
It doesn't explain why you use a robot voice every time you do it, though.
I'm speaking their language. I'm trying to help them assimilate.
My favorite.
It's the same thing as like speaking Spanish to someone who moved here that maybe doesn't speak the best English. It just makes them feel at home.
My favorite was the other night when you were talking to the remote, and you would use a little robot voice to say Netflix, and then I made fun of you for it, and you're like, I do not, and you go Netflix directly after that. That was my favorite.
How do you say it?
Just talk like normal. Just use your normal speaking voice.
What if it doesn't understand you? What are you going to do then? Smarty pants.
I'm gonna speak again more clearly?
Well,
I
fine,
guess.
whatever. Anyways, Tobe.
So Tobe Hooper died at the age of 74. He was born on January 25th, 1943, and he died on August 26th, 2017. Was that 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? That's almost like 4 weeks ago.
It's been a minute.
It's almost a month. He was born in Austin, Texas.
We used to go there all the time when I was a kid.
I don't think I've ever...
Did your parents not take you to the state capitol?
Is that a thing, to travel to the state capital?
Yeah. You go to the state house, and then you walk through all the weird stuff in the basement of the state house. They have all these like corridors and shit. It's really cool. So Tobe got super interested in filmmaking when he was a little kid because his parents owned a theater in San Angelo.
He took some radio and television film classes at the University of Texas in Austin and studied drama in Dallas.
And then after that, he worked as a documentary cameraman and a college professor. His film debut was in 1969 with a movie called Eggshells. And he said that it was a partly improvised psychedelic drama. Which sounds weird as fuck. I think we should try and find it and watch it.
Yeah, before that in 1964, he did a short called The Heisters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and go out on a limb and say that was probably part of the college. But then in 1973, I think he was standing in a mall.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so he was working...
It was Christmas, right?
Yeah, it was Christmas time. He was working on a story about young people in peril when he found himself one weekend in the hardware department of a busy store. And then there was a big display of chainsaws in the store, like right in front of him. And he thought to himself, I wonder how fast these motherfuckers would move if I ripped up one of these chainsaws.
Yeah.
My words, not his, but that was the gist.
That's what gave him the idea for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He then proceeded to grab some friends and he went and shot it. And he drug them through hell.
Yes, it was not chill. Working on the film was pretty gross. There was like animal stank mixed with extreme heat. The cast and crew vomited pretty regularly. They had to remove the clutch of the chainsaw after an actor fell while using it and injured himself or almost injured himself. Hooper also engineered divisions among his cast so that like the tension was real. Like he was like full manipulating them, and he was like, Sally said that you were a little bit of a dick, and then he was like, Jason said you had a tiny penis, and then he was just like being a real beehole to these people.
What? A beehole.
A beehole. The craziest thing that he did, and probably the smartest thing he did, was he refused to let any of the cast see Leatherface in full makeup until they were shooting with him. So any sort of like not like, oh, we're shooting today, hey, here's Leatherface in full makeup. Like whenever Leatherface comes around the corner at the very beginning, whenever he scares the shit out of that kid, that was real. Like he didn't know what was coming around that corner, and they built so much hype around what Leatherface was going to look like and his demeanor and like how scary he was going to be, that everybody was just like full on edge. Like everything was, the whole time they were shooting, everyone was barfing, smelling nasty shit. They were hot as fuck, and they were all just so freaking intense the entire time because he was, again, being a little bit of a beehole.
Another thing he did, which is pretty gross, is he figured out that it was cheaper to get skeletons from China of real humans than it was to have them made as fake skeletons here for the set.
Nope.
And he continued this for a lot of his movies.
Right. I want to know who figured this out. You know, who was the person who was like, oh, hey, Tobe, I don't know if you know this or not. Like, I get all my skeletons from China. They're real, but they're a little bit cheaper. It's a little creepy and it's kind of weird, but...
And they're really short, but, you know.
That's terrible. So whenever they released Texas Chainsaw Massacre, there was some drama across the pond. 10 local authorities in Britain showed the film with an X rating. Ask me why they gave it an X rating.
For tone, I imagine.
No. The Board of Censors refused to issue a certificate in 1975 on the grounds that the film exemplified the pornography of terror. How fucking metal is that shit? The pornography of terror. And then later they had to retract it, right? In 1999, they had to like pull the X rating and admit that there is no sexual content in this film.
Right.
None. They fucking hyped the fuck out of it. They made it super popular, even overseas, because they were like, this is promoting the pornography of terror. And it's just like, what the fuck? It was crazy. And so they had to finally just like, they had to let it go.
Well, what's crazy is that Tobe Hooper actually wanted to get it like a PG rating.
Right, because there's like very little visible violence in the film. Most of it is just tension. Tobe said that one of his greatest achievements was to have created an atmosphere of dread and distress, chiefly through insinuation. Wes Craven said that it was so intense that it was like watching a snuff film, which I didn't get, but maybe the 70s were a different time. John Waters, who we love and adore, said that it was the scariest movie that he had ever seen.
So he did the first one, and it was a surprise hit.
Out of the 4 that we've seen thus far, by far the best.
And also, it felt like you weren't supposed to be watching it.
Right. It's got like a really voyeuristic like tinge to it, but without like being a Blair Witch Project type thing. It feels naughty.
When the second one came out, he actually used it as a bargaining chip to get a 3-picture deal with a film group called Canon Films, which is why at the beginning of the movie for number 2, which I guess we'll switch and talk about number 2 now, it's why they had the Canon logo, that 3D logo that comes out at you.
Yeah.
They are famous for making
softcore porn.
Softcore Swedish porn.
What is the difference? Like, what makes it?
It's in Swedish.
Oh, that's it?
Like, it's Swedish people, and they speak Swedish.
Yeah.
Maybe they have Swedish sex.
What do you...
And eat Swedish fish.
What do you imagine Swedish porn looks like? Like, if
I imagine it looks like other porn.
Like, if you were watching it side by side with an American porn.
Would I know?
With the little factual knowledge that you have about what Sweden is actually like. What would you think would be the discernible thing?
The hat with the feather in it.
Huh? Are you talking about like lederhosen, like the hat that goes with that?
Well,
Is
they
that
wouldn't
Sweden?
have all the clothes on. They'd just have the hat.
Is that Sweden?
Pretty sure.
I think that's like Austria. I think that it's them just like rubbing each other with Swedish fish, and then like gargling and then spitting on each other the Swedish fish Italian ice from Rita's.
From the American company Rita's.
Yeah, they fly it in for these things, and they just and they just spit it.
So
all
really,
over
the
each
only
other.
thing we know of Sweden is
Swedish
Swedish fish, which is probably not even Swedish.
Oh no, it's in the name. It's definitely Swedish. Why would they call it Swedish fish if they didn't
How do
make
we
it?
not know anything else about Sweden?
Because we went to public school in fucking Texas. That's how. Anyways, okay, back to the story.
Main thing is they wanted to make their own horror franchise, and they were up against New Line with its Nightmare on Elm Street, and Columbia had Jason. So they approached Tobe Hooper about making a chainsaw movie for them, and he actually got them to do a 3-picture deal. He did Life Force, Invaders from Mars, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And so those 3 pictures were kind of like his ode to the horror genre done.
He did a bunch of stuff.
A lot of TV.
Now, did he direct 4?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4? No.
Did he write it?
No. That was his co-writer from Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's right. Okay.
But 2 is an insane movie.
2 is bonkers bananas. I'm trying to remember what the plot was.
You got Chrome Dome. What was his name?
This is the super Texas-y one from the 80s. Okay, I'm with you.
Everybody's holding a Shiner Bock, and they're on their way to the Texas OU game.
It's very serious. Lots of preppies.
So many preppies.
It's a whole thing. Okay, I'm tracking.
What was his name? Not Chrome Dome, but was it Chrome Dome?
Chrome Dome, yeah.
Chop Top.
Chop Top.
So Chop Top is in it. Leatherface.
You kept calling him Chrome Dome because he had a metal plate in his head. That's what it was.
Leatherface is more sexual in this one.
Yeah, but in like a 2-year-old.
But we haven't really reached the weird stage that 4 gets to.
There's like a cavern of bodies, very intricate cavern system.
Yes, they have hollowed out a cave and decorated it with human skulls.
I love it. It's so
weird.
nuts.
And then you have old what was his name? Hopper. Dennis Hopper. You have Dennis Hopper running around just randomly cutting things with his chainsaw.
It was fucking weird.
And you have the dueling chainsaws in the middle.
You know, he didn't have anything to do with 3, our action film, or 4, our Matthew McConaughey vehicle.
I want to say Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 had nothing to do with him except for just the character. And then 4, no, he had nothing to do with those 2.
How do you think he felt? Because he never touched Texas Chainsaw Massacre again, right?
Unless he was a producer or something with the remakes, I don't think so.
How do you think he felt about his work? Which I had never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre until we started doing this series. I did not realize how much stuff comes from it. Like how many like little things that you see in horror movies and even like TV shows like all the time now come from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like he created so many iconic moments in that bananas movie that I mean things are constantly pulled from it.
And I
It's
wonder,
just super interesting.
I wonder too if it's like all pieces of art that get captured. It's more of a happenstance of the time than planned out. Like,
oh yeah, like there's no way he was like this will become iconic.
Right.
It just happened that because it was very different than what was happening, and I think it was visceral but not gory. Like I said before, there was very little actual visible violence in the film. It scared you in the daytime for the most part. and it was all in your head. Like, you imagined on your own a lot of the violence that was happening.
And you still got by far the best shot from any of the movies of her walking towards the house where the camera comes from underneath the swing.
Yeah. I mean, it was well done. I mean, it was very, very well done. By far, this is my favorite series that we've done yet.
Oh, I mean, and there's the reason for that is, other than 3, which still had the shining light of Viggo Mortensen in it.
Fucking love Viggo.
Which really, if you think about it, number 4, that was just him rehashing Viggo Mortensen's character.
Yeah.
Other than 3, each one was more bananas than the last.
But, like, in increasingly excellent ways. Like, I think the first one laid this really, really interesting foundation from which all this other shit came from. I mean, obviously. It was vague enough to allow other people to tell stories on top of it. I mean, not intentionally, but that's how it happened. And without it, we might not have Matthew McConaughey or Renee Zellweger or Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, before Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the reason that everybody was super excited about him was because of Poltergeist, which he did with Steven Spielberg.
Right. There was a little bit of drama with Poltergeist.
From what we read, it could be that he really had very little to do with Poltergeist.
Right. Like, Spielberg really did it.
But because of certain contractual obligations.
Because he belonged to a different studio than was actually making the film.
And he was part of a guild that wouldn't let him direct 2 films at once.
Right. And he said on the record that it was really his film and that Tobe Hooper wasn't really much of a force on set anyways. So he, Tobe was just there to sit and take credit.
He did a lot of TV after that. He did a couple other horror films. Spontaneous Combustion with Night Terrors. Didn't see that one. I saw The Mangler. I didn't realize it was 1995. I feel like I saw that. I could have sworn it was newer than that. I saw Crocodile. It wasn't very good.
I always get Crocodile and Lake Placid mixed up.
2004.
Was there a crocodile in Lake Placid? There wasn't.
Yeah, that's what Lake Placid is about.
Lake Placid?
A giant crocodile.
What's the one where... That's right. I'm also getting that confused with whatever disaster movie it was.
Dante's Peak?
Where the lake turns into acid.
Lake turns into acid?
No, that's a book.
Dante's Peak.
Dante's Peak.
The one
right.
with
Pierce Brosnan.
Pierce Brosnan, yeah.
I confuse all 3 of those
movies. I kind of figured you were when you said that Lake Placid was... You would look confused when I said crocodile. Because... That is what
Even though I'm the person that was like,
and you love that movie, like you love Betty White from Lake Placid.
I do.
So,
and I also love the grandma from Dante's Peak. It's very hard for me.
So this doesn't make a lot of sense. But
you people need to get your lake movies straight, please.
His last film was Jinn. I'm guessing it's about a genie that's evil.
No, I know what it's about. Hang on a second. It was a horror story set in the United Arab Emirates. And it was pretty universally hated. And that kind of ended the career of a man who rewrote the rules of horror. Well, nobody liked it. Which doesn't mean that it's not good. I mean, people are wrong all the time. Look at how wrong they were about Geely.
Were they?
I don't know.
You've also never seen Geely.
No, I haven't. What about Made in Manhattan or Jersey Girl?
Unfortunately, we've never seen Jersey Girl either. Love Kevin Smith, but I haven't forced myself to watch it. I can't do it.
It's Ben Affleck and what's her name?
No.
Liv Tyler.
Was it Liv Tyler?
Yep.
Like I said, never saw it. So that's a brief recap of how Tobe Hooper became famous for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I mean, not became famous for it, like he masterminded it and really shaped an entire genre with his, and I think this is also a testament to being bored, because he was just stuck in a department store trying to figure out how to get out of there. He could have whipped out his smartphone and been like, oh, where's the exit? But he couldn't because of the time. But
right.
if this was him now, he would have been on his phone anyways. And he would have been like, oh, I'm just going to order this chainsaw on Amazon. Wahaha.
But then the horror movie could have been like the 2 days he's waiting for it.
But he was bored and he was looking for an exit. And he was like, fuck yeah, this is a good idea. Ideas come to you in the most insane ways.
Mhm.
And they come to you when you interact in society, A. And B, whenever you are in your own head, when you're bored, when you're not looking at shit.
Maybe, but there's also people who are on their phone going, ooh, what if this happened to somebody while they're on their phone?
Then you just get Cell. That was a terrible film.
That's what happens when you give
John Cusack carte blanche to do whatever he wants.
and a beanie.
Unless you're cold.
That's our quick rundown of Tobe Hooper.
It's our scaredy cat light. Every time you hear a camera shutter noise, you should think about Tobe Hooper.
Yeah. Thanks to Brandon Tuzio for our theme song. You can hear more of him at soundcloud.com/Brandon Tuzio. If you like what we do, rate us on all social medias.
It's Scaredy Cat Pod on everything.
Rate us on iTunes or whatever you're listening to us on. And don't forget to tip your waitress.
Or your waiter, your server in general. You know what we need? We need to get a Snapchat. Especially now that these new $1,000 iPhones have these super fancy Snapchat filters on them. We can watch them move with our faces. You can't see me, but I'm moving my head from side to
You
side.
can probably hear it in the mic.
Probably. I have a noisy head.
Where were you going with that, though?
I'm just saying we should get a Snapchat so we can use filters on our faces.
What would that help?
Nothing. Well,
Okay.
what is... Nothing means anything. Didn't you see that fucking Jim Carrey clip? Everything is pointless. Nothing means anything. Go fuck yourself. We love you, though. You at home. We're in your ear holes. We like you. Thanks for letting us in there.
Well, on that note, adios, muchachos.
Bye.